Hi everyone. So I wanted to do a garden update for March 3rd, 2020. Just starting to get the garden ready for this year's harvest, and there's some work that I've done and some work that still needs to be done. So I wanted to do a quick garden tour before I do any more work. So this is the food forest, and it's kind of looking a little shabby right now. It's covered in sticks and twigs and dead weeds and leaves. All that stuff is okay for now. It's covering the soil and keeping the microbiomes of the soil intact, which is important for when there's frost, so nothing gets destroyed. But we'll deal with that. Other than cleaning it up a little bit, we'll deal with that as the season gets a little warmer, probably sometime around like early April. Not quite yet, but definitely need to clean up the food forest a little bit. There's just a lot of stuff, like some old twigs of some native plants that are growing here that just need to just be turned into mulch. Food forest has matured pretty nicely. It's going into a couple of years, I think 5 years now since my first plantings of these trees. So I'd say the progress has been pretty good. The plum tree over there, right there, is getting pretty tall. Definitely taller than I would have imagined a little stick that you put in the ground could have ever been. Each of these trees was no taller than 3 feet when I planted them, and now they're just really taken off. This year there's going to be a considerable amount of growth. I can really feel it. Got the pawpaw straight ahead here, right there, Elderberry Bush. There's another pawpaw that I'm considering moving, but I might not yet. I'm still just seeing what's going on with it. It's really weird because it was planted at the same time of year as the larger pawpaw, but it's grown maybe like 2 inches, whereas the other one's grown like the whole 10 feet. So interesting. But I just wanted to show a little bit of like the layering that I've got here in the food forest. I mean, you can see all the strawberries. That's all this dried stuff here. Like, I'll give you a little look. See, that's a strawberry plant, and it's crazy because they're still green and they like hunker down and just stay through the whole winter like this. But, you know, no need to just have strawberries on this patch. I've got, like, this is asparagus. Another thing I just got to chop up and kind of mulch, turn back into mulch. But there's asparagus and blackberries, such as this one. There's another little blackberry, and they're just growing in this bed of strawberries. I do want to show you guys one thing, and that's this drainage. Don't know if you guys can see that, but right down there, there's this little swale that takes the water all the way to the end of the property, because otherwise it pools up in this area, which has been really successful. We haven't had any pooling up. It all comes out of this currently very clogged pipe that brings all the water from the roof of the house to water the food forest. So I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a little clearer now. You can see that whole little channel. Anyway, going down the food forest here. A lot of cleanup that still needs to be done. Got the mushroom logs, shiitake mushrooms that have been hanging out here since 2017. Starting to kind of get ready for flushing. It won't be too long. As soon as the rains come, these logs are going to start producing. They've been pretty reliable lately and produced some pretty big shiitake mushrooms. I had put a net over it because I had squirrels that were coming and chewing on the logs, which horrified me. Was very unhappy about that. As we get to this half of the greenhouse, we'll pop into the greenhouse in a little bit. But as we get to this half of the greenhouse, I've got the raspberry bushes that have been extremely productive. I've got the Joanne Jet variety here that I'm extremely happy with. It produces 2 crops and they're just beautiful for picking, for eating fresh. They don't fall apart. They're just a really good, tasty, flavorful, sweet variety. And they're already pruned, just like all the trees, all the fruit trees. I'd already taken care to prune in this open vase pattern, which I really prefer. Keeps the inside of the fruit tree clear so that you don't get a whole bunch of branches going in the center, which cuts off circulation, ends up promoting disease. But definitely have taken care to get everything pruned and ready for the spring. Got the chickens here. Did a little cleanup here yesterday with them. Had a little drama between Miss Charlie here and Blondie elsewhere, so I had to separate them. But this is where we're at. Maybe they'll behave now. I'll open the gate. That's Speckle. She's my favorite one. She's that little love right there. You're so cute. Alright, everybody. Come on. So this is the coop. We redid the roof before the winter really set in and gave them a little mud room off to the side here so that the chickens can warm up a little bit as they file on inside toward the end of the day. But I did want to show you guys the development in the inside of the coop because we had changed it up a little bit since last year. I think that the change is positive as we've got more chickens and definitely more chickens than we had last year, so got to deal with it. I installed some locks down here, so that's what I'm working on right now, is just undoing this lock, if you'll bear with me. There we are. And there's some hydraulics that open the coop up, make it easy to work. What, are you helping? Cutie. So yeah, the inside here has 3 perches. Instead of going or actually, what are you doing over there? Sorry, I got a little distracted. Chickens are very distracting. And these eggs in here are not actually my chicken's eggs. These are wooden eggs, so definitely a little trick to keep them from laying down there. We've been having issues with them laying on their poopy bedding down there, so I decided to trick them, ordered some wooden eggs on Amazon, and it's actually been pretty successful the last couple of days. I've been getting 90% of the eggs in the box and only about 1 on the floor, which is great. I'll take it. But yeah, so we've got the feeder in here that they can access anytime, and calcium feeder that they're able to just kind of freely pick on, get that stuff nice and fresh, makes their shells hard, and gives them enough calcium to be able to stay healthy. Miss Blueberry here, who's spying on us, is actually 4 years old and still laying wonderfully, and I definitely attribute that success to giving her enough calcium that her bones can keep up with laying. So we're gonna follow her around to the garden, which is a huge mess considering it's been the extension of the chicken run over the winter. They've had all of this space to roam and look for bugs and just be happy chickens. But in a couple of weeks when peas go in, they're gonna be back in the chicken run back there. So say hi to some chickens. What's up, Blondie? You getting picked on today? What's going on? parties gathering here. It sure looks like it. I leave the dried up vines from the tomatoes up to create a little bit of cover for the chickens so that they feel safe when they're hanging out here over the winter. It gives them a little protection from sky predators, as we do have falcons in this area, and I have seen them pretty close. Luckily we haven't lost a single bird to them, but I did invest in, you may notice these shiny things that are hanging up there and there. Those are all little reflective discs hanging and reflecting light, kind of like a disco ball, and it keeps the sky predators and hawks and stuff from being able to swoop down and grab a chicken, and it's been pretty successful. Can't say that I've seen one get close to the chickens since I put them up, so I'm just gonna say this is a pretty good solution, and I've got them all over. Got them all over to keep the chickens safe. There's a thick layer of leaf mulch in this whole garden. Had a couple friends that were kind enough to give me some bags from their property, and that keeps the earthworms fed and the chickens fed, because they dig up the earthworms all day long, as you can see by these craters that they dig all up here. The soil is really nice. It's really black, full of organic matter, and they dig in some of these leaves, pull out some bugs, and really help the garden through the winter. Even the ground, even though it's cold out, the ground is squishy when I walk on it, so that's a pretty good sign. It means it hasn't frozen over and the microbiome's protected. Here behind this thicket fence, and the thicket is here to protect the baby raspberries growing right there from chickens tearing them up. So that's something I'm going to do on the currant bushes and a lot of other fruit bushes, is put a layer of thicket like this to keep the chickens from being able to scratch it away at the roots. But here's a little row of raspberries that are going to hopefully be nice and productive this year. They had their first year last year, and they should be ready to rock and roll this year. So let's take a trip over to the greenhouse real quick. Got the blackberries on the opposite side of the raspberries. They were supposed to be thornless, and there's a few thornless varieties in there, but kind of mad at the cultivator that I got these from, because these do not look thornless to me. They definitely do not. These here are thornless, and they are wonderful. Really good variety. They both are, except for I'm not a fan of thorned berries. Oh no, chicken drama. Might have to separate them after all. Anyway, let's get into the greenhouse where it is most certainly green in here. A little bit of a mess after a long winter, but what do you expect? Kale's growing strong. It's been doing really well. Parsley we've been picking all winter long, and these right here are crocus. They're saffron crocuses, and I harvested a good amount of saffron for a home harvest in the fall, and they're just kind of, chilling here all winter long. I've never grown them before, but thought I'd give them a chance here. Cilantro's been rocking and rolling all winter long, and we've got edible cactuses, some citruses that need a little bit of love. This right here is the heater, if you're wondering about this whole weird situation. That's an olive tree that honestly is no fuss at all. It grows really beautifully. And I've got the pond. These lilies have stayed green through the whole winter. Got the tilapia in the pond. They're growing, they're doing well. I wasn't sure if they'd make it over the winter, but honestly, I am pleasantly surprised. See, come up for some food. A little hard to see them on the camera, but they're down there, they're eating. Very happy every time I come out here and give them some food. Got my sprouts ready, tomatoes, good to go. Aloe that I still somehow haven't killed. More citruses that need a little bit of love. The fig tree that did really well last year. And more tomatoes because I've got a tradition of just planting more tomatoes than I'll ever need, but that's alright. And honestly, if you have a greenhouse, parsley is like the best thing to grow. It is so nutritious and it just like produces all winter long. No fuss. Thyme, lots of thyme. Got oregano coming back strong. Greenhouse is doing well. So, I wanted to give you this little tour. I'm going to end it right about here and give you guys an update when I do a little work on it. It's hard to record and work at the same time. Maybe I'll get it down one of these days, but that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks again for following along on this journey, and I appreciate all of you. Happy growing.